Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
After listening to today's news, you'll know first, Microsoft's $4 billion Wisconsin AI hub aims for 10 times supercomputer power, creating an energy-hungry national security honeypot. So we'll discuss why this massive hardware concentration matters and what it means for the global AI arms race and US national security. Second, a 70% drop in bee deaths is achieved by Beewise's AI robotic Hives, transforming agriculture with a Hive as a service model. We'll explore how this fusion of AI and robotics could transform traditional agriculture and what it signals for the future of our food supply. Third, a Scottish deepfake conviction resulted in a mere £335 fine, exposing a critical legal loophole for AI-generated abuse. This discussion will reveal how this case connects to the global challenge of regulating AI and what it means for future deepfake legislation. Fourth, Walmart's marketplace became a wild west for counterfeits after a 900% seller surge in its race to catch Amazon. We'll analyse why this growth at all costs strategy is a turning point and how it could affect platform liability and e-commerce regulation. Fifth, Nvidia's $900 million Acqui-hire of Enfabrica's team is a strategic move to sidestep regulators and solve the GPU interconnect bottleneck. In this episode, we'll break down this talent-grabbing strategy and what it signals for Nvidia's full-stack ecosystem and the AI chip wars. Microsoft's CEO just made a stunning claim, a new facility that will deliver, quote, 10 times the performance of the world's fastest supercomputer today. To put this in perspective, we aren't just talking about faster video games or web searches. 10 times the power of the current fastest supercomputer means the ability to train AI models that are unimaginably complex. This could lead to breakthroughs in medicine, materials, science, and climate modeling that are currently out of reach. It's a quantum leap in computational power. And this isn't just talk. The company's backing it up with a new $4 billion investment to build a second AI data center in Wisconsin, right next to the $3.3 billion one they're already finishing. However, if you zoom out, you'll see a major complication. A facility this powerful creates an enormous energy demand. Research suggests these data centers will be one of the largest electric loads in the entire state of Wisconsin. Microsoft has promised to co-fund a 250 megawatt solar project, but the total energy need is estimated to be over 650 megawatts. That leaves a massive deficit. And environmental groups are raising alarms that local utilities might fill that gap by building new natural gas power plants, potentially locking the state into fossil fuels for decades. But that's not the whole picture. The real turning point is the location. This entire AI city is being built on the very same land where a massive Foxconn manufacturing plant was famously promised and then abandoned. And the shadow of that failure is long. After all, the Foxconn deal promised 13,000 manufacturing jobs for a massive $3 billion incentive package, but by 2021, it had delivered only 579 eligible jobs. In contrast, data centers create very few long-term, high-skill positions. To avoid another disaster, local governments have put stricter, legally binding agreements on Microsoft, including a hard deadline to begin construction by 2026. The contrast is staggering. The failed Foxconn project was permitted to consume over 7 million gallons of water per day. Microsoft's new data center will use just 2.8 million gallons per year. Now, that number sounds great in comparison, but the cooling technology is key. While it's a fraction of what Foxconn was permitted, some of the world's other massive AI data centers can use up to 5 million gallons of water per day. Microsoft's ability to keep water usage low is critical, especially since they are drawing from the Lake Michigan watershed, which is protected by the Great Lakes Compact. This all points to a core conflict, a global AI arms race moving at lightning speed. This is just a fraction of Microsoft's recent moves, including a $15.5 billion UK infrastructure plan and a deal worth up to $19.4 billion to rent AI capacity in Europe. We've discussed before how even giants like Microsoft are forced to rent compute power just to keep up, and this Wisconsin project shows them trying to build their own capacity to get ahead. At the heart of this project are hundreds of thousands of Nvidia's most powerful Blackwell GB 200 GPUs, all designed to run the world's most demanding AI models. So what's the real-world consequence of this hardware grab? By buying up hundreds of thousands of these chips, giants like Microsoft are cornering the market. Nvidia's own executives admit demand will outstrip supply well into 2025. The direct ripple effect is that startups, universities, and even other large companies are being left in the dust, unable to get the hardware they need to innovate. This centralization of power could stifle creativity. This massive concentration of power led the state's governor, Tony Evers, to declare that Wisconsin will now be home to the largest number of GPUs under one roof. And this is where a major vulnerability emerges. From a national security perspective, creating the world's largest concentration of AI hardware in one location is a huge risk. This facility immediately becomes a high-value target for both physical sabotage and cyber attacks. It's an unprecedented honeypot of computational power, and it will require an unprecedented level of security to protect it. We were just talking about the sheer scale and power of AI infrastructure. Now, let's shift focus to see how that same technology is making a huge impact on a much smaller and arguably more vital scale. A new technology is slashing the death rate of bee colonies by a staggering 70%. This is critical because right now, 40% of all bee colonies are collapsing every year. More than 1/3 of the crops we eat are pollinated by those bees, and their population is in big trouble due to climate change and outdated tech. Stronger hurricanes and fires are destroying the simple wooden beehives that have been the standard since the 1850s. Now, get this. Those wooden boxes, called Langstroth hives, offer almost no protection from extreme weather, pests like the varroa mite, or diseases. They are passive structures that require constant manual human intervention. That model just isn't working anymore. A startup called Beewise is deploying a radical solution, AI-powered robotic beehives called Beehives. So how does it work? According to Beewise CEO Sar Safra, cameras and AI software inside the bee home monitor each individual bee and identify its needs. What's remarkable is that the AI isn't just watching, it's using machine learning to analyze video feeds and tiny sensors 24/7. It's looking for subtle changes in bee behavior, wing movement, and even the sounds of the hive to detect the earliest signs of problems long before a human beekeeper ever could. If the AI detects a problem, a robot takes action. If there's not enough food, the robot delivers a supply. If it's too hot or cold, the system thermoregulates. A storm is coming, the hive automatically protects the bees. Believe it or not, this is essentially precision medicine for bees. But it also raises a question, what if the black box AI gets it wrong? Robust safeguards are essential to prevent a single bug from causing a catastrophic failure. And this isn't just a science project, it's a full-scale operation attracting serious money. Here's where it gets interesting. Beewise has cracked a new business model. They're offering what's being called Hive as a Service. Farmers can rent these high-tech hives, eliminating huge upfront costs and paying for pollination as they go. There are already thousands of these bee homes in the field, and the company has raised $170 million from backers like Insight Partners and Fortissimo, reporting gross margins of 40%. This is where the situation takes an even more ambitious turn. The next generation of bee homes is projected to manage 40 or more colonies at once. The way they achieve this scale is through brilliant engineering. Inside each unit, a robotic arm on a track can autonomously visit each colony, inspect frames, apply treatments, or even assist with honey harvesting. It's a single, tireless, robotic beekeeper serving millions of bees, reducing manual labour by a reported 90%. The fight to save the world's bees is now being waged with robotics and AI. But as we celebrate this, some ecologists are asking an important question: are we creating a bee population that becomes completely dependent on technology? The challenge ultimately is balancing technological intervention with the preservation of natural adaptation. It's incredible to see AI being used to protect life, but as we know, the same technology can be twisted for far more sinister purposes, which brings us to a deeply troubling case out of Scotland. A man used AI to digitally create nude images of a woman he knew. He was her friend, and when he was convicted in court, his penalty was a fine of just £335. The victim, identified as Sophie, is now speaking out, saying she was left feeling humiliated and betrayed. The man, Callum Brooks, was someone she knew from high school. She told reporters, "It disgusts me that you could do that to someone you would call a friend." She described having her image kidnapped from a social media post where she was fully clothed, her face digitally grafted onto two naked pictures. Sophie's use of the word kidnapped is incredibly accurate, and it highlights the unique trauma of this crime. Research shows deepfake abuse creates a state of digital haunting, a constant fear that these fake images could resurface at any moment, causing severe anxiety and depression. But the story isn't just about one act of betrayal. It's about a technological threat that is exploding. According to cybersecurity experts, so-called nudification apps make this kind of deepfake creation very, very easily done. So the thing is, these apps use a powerful form of AI called generative adversarial networks, or GANs, to essentially predict and then digitally paint what a person's body might look like under their clothes. And they're often distributed through private channels on platforms like Telegram and Discord, completely bypassing official app stores. This case, one of the first deepfake prosecutions in Scotland, has become a flashpoint. The perpetrator's defence claimed there was no sexual element to his actions, a claim the court accepted. This led to the minimal fine, and it exposes a massive legal grey area. The crux of the legal problem is that our laws are struggling to keep up. Legal frameworks often lack a clear modern definition of what constitutes a sexual element when the content is AI fabricated. This ambiguity allows for shockingly low penalties, leaving victims without real justice. Sophie is now demanding new legislation. In response, the Scottish Government stated it is carefully considering if a separate law is needed. But while lawmakers consider the technology continues to advance, this case in Scotland is really a microcosm of a much larger global conversation. Lawmakers everywhere are wrestling with whether to create new AI-specific laws or adapt existing ones. The challenge is making laws flexible enough to keep up with evolving technology while also being strong enough to be enforced across international borders. This incident lays bare an alarming reality. The tools to digitally violate someone are widespread and easy to use. And for now, the price for stealing a person's face to create a deepfake can be less than the cost of a new phone. Speaking of legal grey areas and a lack of accountability, another major company is now under fire for prioritising growth over the safety and trust of its customers. A trusted American retailer, Walmart, is being called the new Wild West for counterfeit goods. An investigation revealed a stunning directive from a former employee on Walmart's seller vetting team, who said managers eventually told them, just go ahead and approve everybody. This push for growth led to a staggering 900% increase in sellers on its platform in just 5 years. The situation presents a fascinating duality. From a pure business perspective, the strategy worked, at least in the short term. Walmart's global e-commerce sales surged by 21% in a recent quarter. But this is the classic growth versus trust dilemma, and the long-term cost of brand erosion could eventually outweigh those profits. What really brought this to a head, though, was the discovery that at least 43 vendors had stolen the identities of real legitimate businesses to set up their accounts. We're talking about a Chicago pizza chain and a disability services provider suddenly appearing as sellers of high-end beauty products. The owner of Demo's Pizza, whose business identity was stolen, asked who'd be buying an Estee Lauder skin cream from Demo's Pizza. For a small business like Demo's, the damage goes far beyond reputation. The operational and legal burden is immense. The owner has to navigate a complex process to reclaim their business identity and prove the fraud, all while diverting precious time and resources away from actually running their shop. To test the system, investigators purchased 20 different items from these fraudulent sellers. The result? Every single one was counterfeit. A former employee recalled management's thinking on allowing risky sellers for brands like Nike. They knew it would increase the risk of fakes, but decided the size of the prize was worth it. One seller even called Walmart a breath of fresh air because its policies were so lenient compared to Amazon's. This all happened on a website many shoppers trust implicitly. One customer who bought fake skincare said, "I trust Walmart. I thought I was buying it from them. It's their website." That customer's feeling isn't an accident. It's a psychological phenomenon experts call transferred trust. We all have a trust halo around the Walmart brand from its physical stores, and the website's design can blur the line between what's sold by Walmart and what's sold by a third party, exploiting that trust. Now, after being presented with these findings, Walmart has tightened its vetting for some sellers, but legal experts argue that because of this deep trust, the case for holding the company liable for harmful products is even stronger than it is for Amazon. This debate is happening because a bill called the Shop Safe Act, which would hold platforms liable, has stalled in Congress partly due to lobbying from e-commerce giants who argue it's too burdensome. While Walmart is in a fierce battle with Amazon, an even more high-stakes war is being waged in the world of AI, where Nvidia is making some bold and very expensive moves to secure its dominance. Nvidia just dropped over $900 million, not to buy a company, but to hire its CEO and key employees. In a deal that closed last week, the AI chip giant paid cash and stock to bring over Enfabrica CEO Rochan Sankar and his team, while also licensing the startup's technology. This was a high-stakes talent grab. This kind of deal, sometimes called an Acqui license, is actually a masterstroke of corporate strategy. By just hiring the team and licensing the tech, Nvidia can absorb a company's most valuable assets, its people and its ideas, without the months of intense regulatory scrutiny that comes with a traditional merger. It's a way to move at lightning speed and sidestep antitrust watchdogs. So why is this interconnect technology so critical? The biggest problem in AI right now isn't just chip power, it's getting them to talk to each other without creating a massive traffic jam. Enfabrica's secret sauce, their accelerated compute fabric, is designed for this GPU to GPU communication. It drastically cuts down on latency and congestion, like building a superhighway system directly inside the computer. Nvidia isn't just selling chips anymore. It's building the integrated backbone for the entire AI industry. Interestingly enough, Enfabrica wasn't a failing startup. It was valued at around $600 million and had top-tier investors, including Nvidia itself. In reality, this shows just how difficult it is for anyone to build a standalone competitor in Nvidia's shadow. For a successful startup, aligning with the industry leader can be a more viable path than fighting them head-on. This isn't a one-off move either. It's the new front line in the AI arms race. Tech giants are pouring billions into these Acqui-hires to absorb top minds without regulatory headaches. And while these deals might fly under the radar for now, regulators are starting to take notice. The US Department of Justice has already launched an antitrust investigation into Nvidia, and China's market regulators have also found them in violation of anti-monopoly laws in a previous deal. If that was just the appetizer, the main course is the news that just as Nvidia was shelling out for talent, it also announced a $5 billion stake in its longtime rival, Intel. The two will now collaborate on AI processors. When we place this move alongside Nvidia's past actions, a clear strategy emerges. Remember when Nvidia's $40 billion attempt to buy the chip designer arm collapsed under massive regulatory pressure? This is the new playbook. Instead of trying to swallow companies whole, it's using a portfolio of strategic investments, talent acquisitions, and licensing deals to achieve the same goals, gaining influence and control without triggering all the antitrust alarm bells. Ultimately, Nvidia is transitioning from being just a component supplier into an end-to-end, vertically integrated AI data center provider. They're building a full stack moat. By controlling the silicon with their GPUs, the networking with tech from Enfabrica, and the software on top, they are creating a closed ecosystem. The goal is to make it so that if you want to build powerful AI, you don't just buy Nvidia chips, you buy the entire Nvidia platform. And it's working. The company's data center segment now accounts for nearly 90% of its revenue, a staggering $26 billion in a single quarter.
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.